Hello, my name is Marcia Huerta. It's good to have you here at Echoes of Tomorrow. We welcome all and we love our subscribers. We are all about Revelation, the study of eschatology and day events. What we do here is we compare the three prevailing schools of thought of eschatology: Historicism, Futurism, and Preterism. At Echoes of Tomorrow, we support the historicist interpretation. We see Revelation as an unfolding of history between the two advents. This is the time of Christ's mediation. In past videos, we spoke of techniques that John employed while writing this portal in time. One such technique was to speak about a future event as if it had already happened. This is known as a prolipsis. We've all heard of the beast that is, that was, and is to come. Historic events are mapped out by symbolism. This shouldn't be too intimidating for us. Remember, there's a blessing for those who know this book. And we're all familiar with some of the more important or more often used symbols in the Bible. And many times, one particular thing will be represented by several symbols. So let's do this. I'll name 5 symbols that represent one thing. You'll know these. Are you ready? Morning star, light, door, lamb, shepherd. Christ, right? Yes. We address the key to understanding symbols in our The Woman in the Wilderness study. Today, we're going to take a closer look at this woman in Revelation 12. We previously confirmed that she represents Christ's betrothed, the church. Unlike the Old Testament people of God, in which they were married to him, the New Testament people are betrothed to Christ. And therein is the distinction between the Israel of the Old Testament and today's Israel. Revelation begins soon after the first advent. From that time, Christ is mediating for the church, and he is our priest. He alone. The Old Testament sacrificial system and the Levitic priesthood was changed at the cross. This is in the book of Hebrews. Hebrews is about the change of the priesthood and the change in the law. The human events occurring, such as the rise and fall of nations or kingdoms since then, are mapped out for us. Again, we look at the symbols. Revelation is replete with symbols of beasts, kings, heads, horns, crowns, all which represent one thing: earthly powers. In the sequence of ruling kingdoms or governmental powers, we can delineate the symbols in sequence and spectacularly see historical events unfold. In today's study, The Woman in the Wilderness and the 10 Kings, we find the woman, the church, is in a wilderness experience. The 10 kings, or earthly powers, as we have concluded in previous videos, begin their existence after the fall of the Roman Empire, a point agreed upon by all 3 schools of the eschatological thought, by the way. Now, this situation gives rise to a question that should be really relevant to us now, in this time, and that is, what is the relationship between Christ's people, his betrothed, and the progression of political powers? And is the relationship significant for only an instant or over a prolonged period of time? Here, with some perhaps surprising clarification, is my husband, Jerry.
Welcome to Echoes of Tomorrow. Today's show is The Woman in the Wilderness and the 10 Kings of Revelation. God foreshadowed the future through the prophets using cryptic language, literary devices, or symbolic terms. Additionally, prophets were given only parts of that future to see. Consequently, interpreting prophecy requires we place these parts in the proper chronological order, accounting for literary devices such as the use of a day to symbolize a year. In previous videos, we showed the phenomena of the woman in the wilderness in Revelation 12 is a protracted or extended event, not a precipitous one or an abrupt one, as the preterists and futurists believe. Reading from Revelation 12, verse 6, we read, "And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days." It goes on in verse 17, "And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ." There are two identifiers about the woman in the wilderness in these passages. First, God prepares a place for her in the wilderness, and secondly, the remnant of her seed keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Christ. Before we reveal what the Old Testament says about the woman's wilderness experience, let's deal with those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Christ. In this age, revealed as the betrothed of Christ in the New Testament. That betrothal is a prominent aspect of the New Testament. In Matthew 21, verse 2, we read, "The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king which made a marriage for his sons." In Matthew 25, verses 5 and 6, we read, "While the bridegroom tarrieth, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him." And in Luke 12:36, we read, "And ye yourselves like unto men wait for their Lord, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may be open unto him immediately." In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2, we read, "For I am jealous over you with a godly jealousy, for I have espoused you to one husband." The New Testament establishes those with the testimony of Christ are his betrothed and await his return for the marriage feast, which is taken from Hosea Chapter 2. In Hosea Chapter 2, we read, starting at verse 14, "Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her." It goes on in verse 19, "And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in lovingkindness and in mercies." And it continues in verse 23, "And I will sow her unto me in the earth. And I will have mercy upon her that have not obtained mercy. And I will say to them that were not my people, Thou art my people. And they shall say, Thou art my God." Now, there's a distinction between Israel being married to God in the Old Testament, according to Jeremiah 31 and other passages, and awaiting the consummation of the marriage as the betrothed of Christ under the new covenant. We see the woman in Hosea 12 saved in the wilderness and betrothed to Christ, identifying her as the woman in Revelation chapter 12. We know this because the betrothal pertains specifically to the northern kingdom of Israel that was divorced and exiled into the wilderness according to Hosea, Jeremiah, and a number of other prophets. But what is most significant is that the Old Covenant established that there was a sin or an abomination for a divorced and an unfaithful wife to return to her first husband, as declared in Deuteronomy 24, verse 4. Her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife, after that she has defiled, for that is an abomination before the Lord. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. God does not violate his law to take the divorced descendants of the northern kingdom of Israel back to himself, which is what Paul addresses in Romans chapter 7. In Romans chapter 7, verses starting at verse 2, we read, "For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if, while her husband liveth, she is married to another, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law. so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Christ, that ye should be married to another, and even him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God. So it was the death and resurrection of Christ that satisfied the requirements of the law in Deuteronomy 24 and allowed the descendants of the northern kingdom of Israel to return to Christ in the wilderness as his betrothed, to bear the fruit of the vineyard according to Matthew 21:43. In Matthew 21:43 we read, Therefore say I unto you, the kingdom of God shall be taken from you and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits thereof. The New Testament affirms that the disciples went to the descendants of the northern kingdom of Israel in Asia Minor in fulfillment of Hosea Chapter 2 and Matthew 21:43. In 1 Peter we read, in 1 Peter chapter 1, in verse 1 we read, Peter, an apostle to Jesus Christ, to those who are elect exiles of the dispersion of in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. This is from the English Standard Version. We used it because the nouns and adjectives are more close to the original intent. To go on, the wilderness is a metaphor for the nations beyond the land promised to Israel. Hosea, Jeremiah, and Isaiah and Zechariah foresaw that Israel, the descendants of the northern kingdom, would be saved and then sown and scattered in a multi-generational wilderness experience as the kingdom that bears the fruit of the vineyard, the kingdom that was at hand. The prophecies in the Old Testament affirm that the 1260 days in Revelation 12 should be interpreted symbolically as years, just as Daniel had for Christ's first advent. Daniel cloaked the distant event of Christ's first advent in the imminent commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, just as Christ cloaked his distant return in the imminent event in which one stone wouldn't be left upon another at the destruction of Herod's temple. As revealed in our previous video, the 10 kings in Revelation are expected to rise out of the fallen Roman Empire according to Daniel and Revelation, which supports their kingdoms are protracted or extended in nature, not to be construed as brief, which the preterists and futurists hold. And again, in our previous video, we showed that Zechariah had foreseen in chapter 13 a fountain open to the house of David for sin and uncleanness that was fulfilled by Christ, who sent the disciples to declare the gospel, which ultimately cut off the names of the idols out of the land and led to a multitude of Christian nations according to the same context. No doubt history affirms this. It is in the same sense or set of circumstances that the ancient Roman Empire is illustrated to give the beast that rises out of the sea with 10 horns its power and his seat and great authority according to Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2. Both preterists and dispensationalists agree the dragon in Revelation 12 is also symbolic of the ancient Roman Empire, the fourth kingdom in Daniel. Daniel had prophesied that the 10 horns on the fourth beast in chapter 7 represent 10 kings that rise out of the fourth beast, which preterists and dispensationalists agree again represents the ancient Roman Empire. Consequently, we look for the 10 kings to arise out of the fallen Roman Empire and as kingdoms that renounce idol worship, which exposes the views of the preterists and dispensationalists that we should be looking for them at Christ's first or second advent as doctrine fit to be consumed by fire, according to 1 Corinthians 3, verses 12 and 13. The illustrations that the crowns in Revelation 12 and 13 shift from the 7 heads to the 10 horns relates that the beast rises from the sea at the fall of the ancient Roman Empire, and amongst the Germanic kings that supplanted the fallen empire, which Daniel also prophesied. It's the Germanic kings that don the crowns when the beast from the sea rises, signifying they hold the power and dominion over the fallen empire at this time, which history affirmed. In our video, The 10 Horns on the Beast of Revelation, we revealed that the 10 kings reign over a protracted time, insomuch that they rise with the crowns on their heads at the fall of the ancient Roman Empire and hold power and authority with the beast that rises out of the sea for 42 months or 1260 days, while the beast is revealed as being the head that is wounded in the same context. Yet the same kings are illustrated to be out of power in chapter 17 and regain it with the beast that rises again for only 1 hour, which establishes that Revelation chapter 13 is in chronological order with chapter 17, insomuch as 1260 days or years must commence before the final hour of the beast. Such evidence supports that the protracted reign of the kings who relinquished some power with the wounded beast during its reign of the sixth head or the sixth king in Revelation 17. The blasphemy of the beast in Revelation 13 is also substantiates the 10 kings and the woman's wilderness experience are protracted phenomena. In Revelation 13, verse 5, we read, "And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months." It is the little horn in Daniel chapter 7 that also speaks great things, which identifies it with the beast that rises out of the sea. Certainly, blasphemy is when a man tries to make himself like God, or according to John chapter 10, verse 33. Under the Old Covenant, the priests held no civil authority and the kings held no ecclesiastical power. This is why Saul was punished and the kingdom taken from him for trying to sacrifice offerings as if he were a Levite. As for this age, it's the church that was given authority over ecclesiastical matters, while civil matters were ordained to the powers that be. This is from Romans chapter 13. As Christ declared, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God," in Matthew chapter 22, verse 21. That blasphemy would be a man trying to receive what should be rendered to God. What the fall of the ancient with the fall of the ancient Roman Empire, we should be looking for an entity that tries to use the 10 kings to blasphemously coerce man's duty to God, a duty that was given to the church to compel through devotion, not coercion. History affirms just such an entity when Rome fell, and that it suffered a deadly wound with the rise of Protestantism. Interpreting the beast's use of conversion, it interrupted the beast's use of coercion over man's duty to God. Certainly, the 6 kings' reign in Revelation 17 looks a lot like our time, which we established in our video on the mystery of the 7 heads in Revelation. The wounded head is the 5th one. The little horn in Daniel, renamed the beast that rises out of the sea, that along with the 10 kings will resume that power they had previously held before the Reformation with the revival of the head that is wounded. Our videos will continue to reconcile the unfolding of the history illustrated in the book of Revelation on Echoes of Tomorrow.
So, Echoes of Tomorrow endeavors to reveal the unfolding of history between the 2 Advents, specifically the history of believers, the church, Christ's betrothed, those awaiting consummation of Christ's kingdom to come, the woman in the wilderness, the marriage of the bride and bridegroom upon Christ's return. We are given a glimpse in the progression of time, and we are allowed to understand various political powers for the reason of being alerted to the ploys of Satan and his attacks on the church. Infiltration, subversion, deceit, these are the weapons he uses upon Christ's church. Admittedly, this is scary stuff, But Jeremiah 31 reassures us that he who scattered Israel, the church, the woman in the wilderness, will gather them and will watch over his flock like a shepherd. If this study has spoken to you, please share and like. Comments made in grace are welcome. And as always, we invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. For further study, we have 2 books available through Amazon: Thy Kingdom Come, Re-Evaluating the Historicist Interpretation of the Revelation, and The 4 Horsemen and the Merchants of Revelation. Blessed be the Lamb.